Pioneers, and welcome to the Nerdstrom household. My name is Nerdstrom, and we're continuing our deck profiles for the Nerdstrom House Championship Set 7. And right here, we've got the number 5 seed, Emerald Steel, in the Scar Box, resting on a bed of Tinkerbell. This is a deck that I think, in comparison to most of the decks out there, you're not going to see anything too out of the ordinary, except one maybe big thing that's on here. That has come as the result of experimentation and kind of trying out new things and everything to see if the option is a viable option in terms of how it is. So, that's the reason why this video is titled "Same as it ever was," but I really should be putting some question marks at the end of it at the same time too. So we got our deck profile right over here. Now, out of all of the decks, this is going to probably have the least amount of 1-drops. Those of you guys who are Emerald Steel players, you probably know that there's not a whole lot of Emerald Steel 1-drops that are really that viable in the game. And it's a slow burn game. It takes a little while for this deck to run. Now, I, as a person who started playing with aggro decks and always trying to get early control as early as possible, this deck is the bane of my existence. I never would ever claim to myself to be a great Emerald Steel player. I do kind of feel that this deck, with a couple of really interesting omissions, has a deck that's pretty similar to a lot of people, but people that are adept at Emerald Steel could take this same deck and probably go deep in a tournament with it. I am not confident in my abilities in this sort of thing, and that's the reason why, in comparison, you won't see me play Emerald Steel as much as it. But it is one of the more complete decks in terms of like copying everybody else's deck. Let's go ahead and get started. So there are only 6 1-drops in this deck, and again, like I said, Emerald Steel players know this all too well. There's not a whole lot of options available. I'm going to start off with the first 4, which of course we're going to lead with Diablo, Maleficent Spy. When you play this character, you may look at each opponent's hand. You also do have 2 Hidden Coves. At this location, characters get 1 strength, 1 willpower while they're here. It's all about buffing and protecting your characters as best as possibly can. It's pretty cheap too. It's relatively strong, so it could stick around for quite a while. Usually decks like Ruby Sapphire have something to kind of like counteract that. Big attackers like Maui, the Hero to All, and all that kind of stuff. So that can be a problem, but I mean, usually Hidden Cove is relatively safe. Because you have to like get rid of Hidden Cove before you can actually start dealing with any of the characters, unless of course you have like a board wipe or something like that. But even then, Hidden Cove stays, and then the process just pretty much starts all over again. I have thought about doing Curse Mofolk. You're going to notice here as a little bit of an aggro option, so I got something to put down on turn 1. In my playthroughs, I never really felt that it was that strong of an option, at least for this particular deck. In addition, the unakeable count compared to the previous deck that you saw, the Ruby Amethyst one, is pretty slow. Excuse me, what am I saying? No, the unakeable count is pretty high. Excuse me. I'm messing up my words. That's okay. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Set 4. 2 drops. Excuse me. All right, we got 4 morphs. Those of you guys know that there are a lot of great shift targets in Emerald and in Steel for morph to be used as a part of it. And so that's the reason why it's part of that as well. I do have 4 Sudden Chills, and that is the extent of my 2-drops. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why isn't Ursula Deceiver in this deck? I think Ursula Deceiver is a very strong card. I think it's a pretty solid card. I had to make sacrifices in order to make this deck work, and unfortunately, Ursula Deceiver is an omission from this deck. I think it's a very strong thing because like once you pop it off, you can get rid of a song as early as possible. And I think the reason why I kind of did that was I made this deck very early on in Arcasia's Island's journey, and this was before the Hiram ban. With Hiram and Fortisphere in full effect, I thought to myself that Steel Song was not going to be a strong candidate in the game. And given my history with Steel Song in said championships, I never felt that it was a strong option in general as a result of my playthroughs. And so I took the risk and I got rid of Ursula Deceiver. I do think that Steel Song has gotten a lot better post Hiram ban. And time will tell if we see as strong of a prominence of Steel Song over the next couple of weeks during this set championship season. But for now, Ursula Deceiver is out. I do not need to worry about it. And the other thing is that Sudden Chill, each opponent chooses and discards a card. Now, they are in control of what cards they choose, but it guarantees that they will get rid of a card, especially on turn 2, because you know they're always going to have cards. So it's better to like do that than them show your deck and all of a sudden like you find out that they don't have any songs, so that you can't discard. Now you just wasted a card. And it's not like Ursula Deceiver. You're not playing a Emerald Amethyst card. There's not a lot of shift targets that Ursula has that where like this 1/3 could potentially be useful again sometime in the future. So that's the reason why it's not in this one. I'm taking a huge gamble that in my local meta, Steel Song isn't that prominent, which is really hilarious for me to say because I know there's plenty of great Steel Song players in my area. But you know, I was taking the risk for that to happen. And in addition, like even Amber Steel Diggy Hole doesn't really rely on songs as much. And so it was my hope that it just wouldn't be the case. But in any case, Morph can still sing Sudden Chill. It's totally fine. And if for some reason you don't get your shift target, you can always just put down Morph and then just go ahead and do Sudden Chill on the next turn. Play Prince John, which we'll get to. Don't worry. All right, let's go ahead and go to the 3-drops. Now, 3-drops, we've got 3 Ursula Deceiver balls. Whenever this character sings a song, you may play that song again from your discard for free and then put it on the bottom of your deck. Why 3 and not 4? It's quite simple, really. I only have 3 in my possession, and I can't play what I don't have. So that's the reason why it's there. And I think it's a very strong thing because you can use that again. You can use Ursula Deceiver all to sing things like Sudden Chill. You can see things like Let Storm Rage On. You are trying to do your best to. This deck in particular is really trying to lean into the discard engine as quickly as possible so you can make sure you get the most use out of Prince John whenever you can. So good question. 4, Pete Games Referee. When you play this character, opponents can't play actions until start your next turn. Then you also have your Prince Johns. Prince John does have Ward, and whenever your opponent discards 1 or more cards, you can draw a card for each card discarded. Here's your draw engine, or at least one of them. The other one would be Diablo Devoted Herald. It's a shift target. You discard an action card. It's got evasive, and during each opponent's turn, whenever they draw a card while this character is exerted, you may also draw a card. Here's your card draw throughout the game. Morph can shift into it as long as you have an action card that you can discard. Pretty solid option. For the actions, you've got 3 Hypnotizes. Each opponent chooses to discard a card, then you can draw a card. For the songs, you've got I'm Still Here. Chosen character gains resist +2 until starting next turn. Draw a card. It's one thing to give a character resist +2 because then you can also protect your things like Diablo or Prince John in the event that you can't get a Cove out. But what's more important is that you have the ability to draw a card at the same time too. And that's the reason why I'm Still Here is still here. 4, Let the Storm Rage On. Deal 2 damage to chosen character. You can draw a card. good classic damager that most people know and respect and fear. And it's a pretty solid card overall. Um, Now for the 4 drops, there's only one type of 4 drop, but you got 4 muses. It's got ward. Whenever you play a song, you can return chosen character with 2 strength or less to their player's hand. This deck doesn't have a whole bunch of songs, I will admit. You got I'm Still Here, you got Storm, you got Sudden Chill, that's 12. You also do have a couple of Brunos at your disposal. This deck does not run Strength or Raging Fire. It does not run Long Came Zeus. The main reason why I don't is because I don't have enough cards. For me, I also don't have enough room to put as many unmakeables as it is, because like at this deck as it stands, you're already looking right here. You've got at least 12, and you know there's a whole bunch more coming in this set. And I do have a pretty hard limit as far as like how far I want to go as far as like the deck count. But when you do, you want to make sure that you have the amount of solid unlinkable quantities. And you want to have less than you actually need. You want to have as little as possible. I'm a person that likes to run less, 15 or less. And that's the reason why certain cards like Along Came Zeus kind of puts it over the limit. And I try as best as possible not to have that happen on there. I do have, in the 5-drop hole, I've got 3 beasts. Shift 3, at the start of your turn, if this character has no damage, draw a card, otherwise he gets +4 this turn. You have 2 Crickies. When you play this character, your other characters get +3 this turn. Cricky has been a solid addition, especially as of late, to give these weaker characters a sudden boost all of a sudden, because if you do need to take out characters one by one, you can do that with Cricky. And not to mention, it also costs for 3. That's a pretty solid game at the same time too, especially on a 3/4 body. And then you've got 1 Lucifer. When you play this character, each opponent chooses to discard either 2 cards or 1 action card. This is also one of the reasons why I have less of a need to play Ursula, at least in my opinion, because again, it's 2 cards that they have to discard or 1 action card. And usually the action cards are mostly songs, so that can also be another reason why you also do that on that too. And then for the song, you've got 3. We don't talk about Brunos. You return a chosen character to the player's hand, and that player discards a card at random. You never know when you need this one. You want to be able to kind of sing it and then have a discard happen so that you can pop off Prince John at the same time too. That's the main reason why it's there. I thought about putting 4 in there, but just never got around to it. Now for the 6 drops, I tend to not really do beyond 5 in most cases if I can get away with it. But a deck like this one, deck like Ruby Amethyst, you can kind of get away with it. But you got Shift 4, Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy. Whenever you play this character, you deal 1 damage to each opposing character. And during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in challenge, you can deal 2 damage to another chosen opposing character. It's like banish, put 2 on another. You can potentially banish another thing on there too. Since Morph is in play, that's the reason why I have this in this deck. And I think it's a pretty solid card. Not to mention, I'm playing it on the mat. It's a nice option. And then finally, you've got 3 Pete Space Pirates. Also a Shift 4, and while this character is exerted, opposing characters can't exert to sing songs, and your pirate characters gain resist +1. So this is one reason why I'm not too worried about a song count on the opponent's side. You've got Pete being able to pause it. If you shift it, now all of a sudden they can't even sing the songs. Another reason why I'm not necessarily worried about Steel Song as much, because if I do end up going to Steel Song character, I can put Pete down a space on turn 4, and all of a sudden now you can actually have the ability to protect yourself from them having to use their characters to sing songs, and it also has resist 1, so that makes it that much tougher to kind of put on there too. Overall, Emerald Steel, it's the number 5 seed in the Nerdstrom House Championship, and I do think it's a pretty solid deck on its own. I do feel that I'm okay in terms of playing it. I don't think I'm one of the best players at it, but we will see if Emerald Steel makes a difference in this Nerdstrom House Championship. And who knows, maybe it could actually be a bracket buster. It could actually move up the ranks. But the only way that you can find out is you have to just wait and see and see what comes of it. So stay tuned. I still got one more deck profile that I have to do for the day. We will check out the number 4 seed really soon. But until then, my name is Nerdstrom, reminding you that just because I play against myself doesn't mean that you have to go out, make new friends, and let's get nerdy.